Hello, my name is Blancaflor, and for my user research project I decided to investigate the teacher experience. So approaching this project, I wanted to learn more about the difficulties teachers face when it comes to teaching their students, and I wanted to find ways to improve upon these difficulties in order to improve the teaching experience for them and to help them improve the learning experience for their students. Heading into this research, I had the idea that teachers had their lessons plans imposed on them, that they received their curriculums from the school districts and that they were stifled and that they were told what to teach. So I wanted to investigate if this idea was true and what could be done if it was. So starting off, it was hard finding a school that would be willing to work with me, but eventually I found a teacher that was willing to work with me, and I decided to conduct my field study visits with her. So I visited her class for 3 field study visits, and each of these visits were 2 hours each. At first, it was a slow start, and I feel like I wasn't getting the data that I wanted. But these deep hanging out sessions slowly transitioned into contextual inquiry sessions, where the teacher would step aside and explain to me her thought processes and her plans for the day, and this was very helpful. Reflecting on the field studies, I received my most meaningful information through the conversations that I had with the teacher, and this might be due to the nature of the topic that I chose, because teaching is as much a mental process as it is a physical one. So I was excited about the data that I received, but I wanted to continue having the conversation and I wanted to validate the results. So we went on and I created an interview based on the information that I learned, and I contacted 3 other teachers to conduct this interview with. So to set up for the interviews, I emailed the principal of the school I've been working with, and it was hard finding or setting up interview times because teachers had to teach class during the day and I had class, so it was hard to meet during their breaks or after school. But eventually, I found 3 windows of opportunity to interview 3 different teachers. Conducting the interviews themselves, we practiced during session, but in session we found it hard to keep the conversation going for over 20 minutes, so it was a little worrying. But when I was actually conducting the interviews, it was hard staying under an hour because every teacher took the conversation in a different direction, and every teacher had so much to say, and I was learning so much, and it was actually really fun. And kind of regrettably, I had to cut off the conversation because of time constraints and out of courtesy. But I feel like I got my most meaningful information, or I got some really meaningful information out of the interviews. Reflecting on the interviews, though, it was hard not to ask teachers to provide like the answer for how to redesign the American educational system, and I found out that it was actually because they don't have the answer, and I found out it was actually such a big debate going on, and it was hard approaching this problem with such little background knowledge. So it was hard to think of questions on the spot, and I feel like some of the questions that I did ask might have distracted from the flow of the conversation. So if I could have done anything differently, I might have listened a bit more. But based on what I learned from the interviews, it was time that I validated the information with an even wider audience, so I created a survey based on the information I learned. To get survey participants, I emailed staff of schools across the country asking if them or anyone they knew would be willing to participate in a survey, and by doing this I received limited responses from teachers in the Seattle area. So approaching the draft report date, I decided to email the school that I had been working with, and by the time I wrote the draft report, I had received 23 different responses. To create the survey and distribute it online, I used SurveyMonkey, and the results that I got from it were not very satisfactory at first. And this was because not a lot of the questions had very clear results, and there was actually a fair amount of disagreement. And so it was hard to draw conclusions, and a lot of the conclusions I did make didn't really support a good amount of the information that I drew from the previous phases of research, so that was a bit difficult. Reflecting on the survey, I wish I could have redesigned it or reworded the questions, or that I at least ran it by a teacher before distributing it to many more, because I feel like a lot of the survey responses were confused, and this could have contributed to the lack of clarity in the results. Finally, it was time for us to pull together the research or the information that we got from all 3 phases of research and to summarize what we learned. So in creating the final report, it was tricky for me because my research involved a process rather than an object or a technology. So I had to find ways to improve upon the American educational system as a whole, and that's such a big task. So I decided to focus on smaller parts of it and to find more practical adjustments that can be made. And a lot of the design recommendations I suggested in my final report were drawn directly from the teachers themselves. Reflecting on the final report, it was very difficult to keep it within 5 pages. This page limit challenges to be concise, but it also challenges to design the report. And as HCDE students, we should know that no one wants to read a 20-page report, and that if they do, they'd want it to be easily readable, that they would want it to be scannable, that they would want graphics to help them to visualize and summarize the information that's there. Reflecting on the project as a whole, I'm glad I chose the topic that I did. It was an amazing experience being able to visit schools with a professional purpose and to take advantage of our authority as students to explore the fields that we chose and to explore user research. And I think that this is a theme of HCDE, to learn by doing, because we're given the opportunity to get hands-on experience with the type of work that we might be doing in the future. So one of the biggest takeaways I would take from this project are that research skills are best learned through practice. Research skills can seem so simple, like observing people or conducting interviews or making surveys, but they're actually really tricky, and it's hard to do them well, and it's hard to do them right, and I appreciate this opportunity to be able to get better at it. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for this opportunity to conduct user research and to get a feel for what it's like. I really enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoyed having me. It was a pleasure. If you guys have any questions, I'm sure you have my contact information, so feel free to contact me. Yeah, thank you so much.